now, another Rock Sports Network presentation.
And we're in overtime. Thank you for joining us here on Rock Sports Network. Alongside me, I'm Dan Borrello. This is Joe Venniro, the Associate Commissioner of the Empire 8 Athletic Conference, which is tantamount to having two no-show construction jobs. Joe, thank you for joining me today.
Well, thanks for that introduction,
I'm just
Dan.
joking. Joe and I have been great friends for years. We've always wanted to do a show together, and finally that date has come 2 days after his 39th birthday. Joe, welcome to the show. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
You like our studios?
It's nice.
If you play your cards, or you can take that Wayne Gretzky framed jersey home if you like.
My kid will like that.
We'll see what happens. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, we're brought to you by, of course, Bill Gray's Taproom and Lattimore Physical Therapy. Currently offers 25 clinics throughout the Rochester area, including locations in North Shiloh and Gates. More than 50 certified physical therapists have experience in treating most conditions and sports injuries, and in most cases are able to offer initial consultations within 24 hours of your convenience. LattimorePT.com. Joe, you're married. You got 3 kids, twin girls, and a boy named Brady who's already going to be the next Wayne Gretzky. I heard you got crazy glued a plastic hockey stick into his hands and told me he had to be a big rich hockey player. Or your wife would starve. Is that true?
That's the plan, right? That's the plan. Yeah.
Is he your favorite? I heard every parent's got a favorite. I don't have kids. I got my own problems. I'm divorced. I don't have a wife.
I don't have a favorite.
You don't have a favorite?
I love all 3.
Well, your brother Tommy's your father's favorite, right? Is that true? Gary's got a favorite. Our producer, Gary Sadek. I'm just joking. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you being here on Overtime on Rock Sports Network. Joe doesn't have a favorite. He's got great kids. In fact, his son, Brady, named his kids, his twin daughters, Trisket and Cheez-It. Well, that is not, in fact, their real names. It's what, Olivia?
And Allegra, yeah.
And Allegra, right.
Yep.
Okay, outstanding. So let's get right into it. The Bills are 4-1, guys. The Buffalo Bills are 4-1. I think they're a loose 4-1, but a solid 4-1, meaning they could play with anybody in the league. Yesterday, they go to Tennessee. 25,000, I think it was more than 25,000 Bills fans showed up for this game in Tennessee at Nissan Stadium. The Bills go in, and for the 4th time this year, the offense and defense both finish, and they beat the Titans on the road. What are your thoughts about this team so far? Because I thought they were about a 500 football team going into this season. They're 4-1 right now. They have a chance to go 6-1 after the bye.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves just
But that's
yet.
what we do. We get ahead of ourselves.
4-1's 4-1. They're playing a good style of football. That defense is devastating right now. I mean, that's the thing with that team is that defense keeps you in every game, and they're not doing a lot of the bonehead things that had gotten them into trouble the last few years. They're not taking stupid penalties. They're playing within themselves. They're turning the ball over from time to time. Allen's got to do a much better job of hanging on to the ball, but they're playing smart. And McDermott's done a really good job this year keeping them to task.
They've done that. Now, yesterday the game could have gone either way. Cairo Santos, who's now been released, they missed 4 field goals yesterday for the Tennessee Titans. 2 of them I thought were makeable. The 3rd one was blocked. The 4th one was a 54-yarder where on a 4th and manageable, Mike Vrabel decided to kick the field goal. My theory was he's more worried about protecting his job as a head coach than he is worried about winning a football game at that point. Think about this. He could say, hey, look, I did my job. They were in position. I expect my field goal kicker to make that, and he didn't make it. But he missed 2. He had a 3rd one blocked. Why would you send your field goal kicker out there to do that on a 54-yarder?
It's a great question. We all kind of sat there and said, all shaking our head like, well, thanks for doing that.
Right.
If you're a Bills fan, thank you. Yesterday was a perfect example of, a team right now that they're catching breaks. They're catching the right breaks. Your opposing field goal kicker misses 4 kicks. I mean, these are games they maybe lost 2-3 years ago that they're winning this year, and they're 3-0 on the road. I mean, that's the biggest thing right now with the Bills. They're 3-0 on the road. Your one loss is to New England, who they're the consensus best team in the league, and you had them on the ropes.
Yes, you had him on the ropes. He had 4 Josh Allen turnovers that actually helped the Patriots go ahead and win that game. His turnovers have led to points on the opposition this year. Yesterday, his interception, he was more careful with the ball, but he still made the silly interception, which led to points, and it's typically on his side of the field, and that's where it happens. That led to Tennessee's lone touchdown. I mean, I don't want Josh Allen to have to play like Tyrod Taylor or have to play a near-perfect game, but you're talking about a Jets game that he basically almost gave them the win. They pulled it out. You had a Bengals team that's only played one good game this season other than the Bills, who came back and almost beat them when the Bills should have been up 28-0. And then yesterday, the one interception led to Titans points. I mean, we got to look at Josh Allen and go, yeah, he played within himself yesterday. But, is this just part of the fact that he is still a project now playing in his second NFL season? I mean, he played in his 17th game yesterday, which means he has one full season under his belt right now. I mean, what else can you expect from Josh Allen going forward?
You're gonna see some ups and downs. And talent-wise, he's got plenty of talent. I mean, one of the best running quarterbacks we've seen in a long time. A rocket arm, but he isn't consistent. And you're gonna have growing pains with him. The biggest thing, they invested a lot of money, a lot of picks in it, to trade a few picks for him. You have to be patient with him. Kelly, people forget his first few years. Kelly had some ups and downs. Jim Kelly had his ups and downs as well, and they struggled. You're a team that's 4-1 right now, with him not playing up to par, up to some people's par. And right now, you're kind of playing with house money at 4-1, and now you're going into the bye, looking to lick your wounds, so to speak, and get healthy and get ready for a big stretch of football coming up.
I think house money is the great way to put this. I mean, because, again, they've escaped. They held on against the Giants. They escaped, and we look at the other games we mentioned, and yesterday, same thing. But in all 4 wins, the Bills' offense and defense both finished. And in years past, this team has not consistently finished. The last time we remember this team starting out 5-1, Chan Gailey gave the whole, how do you handle prosperity? That's what's next. And then what happened? They won 1 game the rest of the season. Now, you have a situation where you're going into a bye, and everybody's saying, oh, thank God the bye is here. They got guys hurt. Let me tell you something. It's the NFL. Every year we say this, no matter what. The bye could be in week 2, and we'd say, oh, thank God the bye is here. There's so many injuries. It's the NFL. That's what's going to happen. We know that Mitch Morse went down yesterday. Cody Ford, who needs all the reps he can, he went down yesterday. He's not a right tackle right now. He looks more like a guard. Can he become a right tackle down the road? We'll see. You had your quarterback come out of concussion protocol to get in this game. I thought that was the right move. If he was healthy to go, he should have gone. I said this before the game. I think you agree with that. I know you're a dad, but at the same time, though, this kid's got to get out there and play in as many games as possible, because I think no matter what their record is, at the end of the day, and Icy Vic and I both agreed on this. I want to hear your take on it. This season, more than anything else, over a playoff berth, anything else, unless somehow they become a Super Bowl team, this season's got to be about Josh Allen's development, period, going into 2020.
I agree to that. I agree with that to an extent, but it's also about your entire team. You got a defense that's built to win right now, and that's the bottom line. They have an elite defense that you want to see them keep progressing. We sit there and say development.
A very good defense. I'm not going to go elite yet, but go on.
But we say, this is the NFL where things change week to week. Look at Jacksonville 2 years ago. Everyone thought they had the next best defense, and now their defense is a train wreck. Saxonville now, they gave up 38 more points yesterday, whatever it was, and they can't stop anybody. No. Your window to win is so small, you have to take advantage of any chance you get. And the one thing I liked about 2 weeks ago when they lost to New England were people were legitimately upset that they lost that game. Not, it was a good battle against New England. They had them on the ropes and they couldn't take care of it, and people were upset about that. And that's a good mindset to have, because for years mediocrity has reigned with the Bills and Bills fans. Even coming into this year, 8-8 would be great. 9-7. You want 10, 11, 12 wins. You want that playoff. You want to host a game in Orchard Park come January.
We all want that. We all want if you're a Bills fan. I think let's put it this way. Even like Bills haters over the last 20 years in Western New York, like those Dolphins fans, a lot of them converted back to being the Bills just because they need an excuse to party on a Sunday and go and get season tickets and go hang out and camp out. Because let's be honest, in Western New York on a Sunday, unless you're going on a wine tour, there's not a heck of a lot to do. All right? But at the same time, with this team, it feels good to finally root against other AFC teams this early in the season. We haven't been able to do that since the Kelly Flutie days. We haven't been able to do that. On the flip side, though, it's still a quarterback league. You still have to win. A lot of teams early this season have been winning with smoke and mirrors, running games and defenses. Look at the Colts last night. They kept Patrick Mahomes off the field, and we'll get into that later, and they won a football game. Jacksonville's been able to run the football. Carolina's been able to run the football, and they've been successful in a league where you're talking about the quarterbacks being the reasons why they win. Heck, even New Orleans. Finally, Teddy Bridgewater broke out of his shell, and he started throwing the ball a little bit yesterday. But still, at the end of the day, it is a quarterback league. The analytics lead to passing. You got to figure out if Josh Allen is going to be the man or not. Some people have said he's garbage. That's not fair. He's not garbage. I think he could be reckless, but he's not garbage. That being said, I think that he needs to be along the lines of a Jameis Winston or better at the end of this season. Winston's got a lot of talent, but he also makes a lot of mistakes. I think that Allen is smart enough to be able to hone those wild tendencies he has, and yesterday was proof of that. Did he throw for 300 yards? No. They only put up 14 points on the board, but they came away with the victory because he limited his mistakes.
Yep. And at the end of the day, you are what your record says you are. At 4-1, they're in a great spot right now, and that's going into the bye. That's all you can hope for.
Couple things. Duke Williams yesterday. He had his coming out party. Fans loved him. He was the leading receiver in the CFL. He had a rough training camp. He was waived. Nobody picked him up. They put him on the practice squad. The guy's over 6 feet tall. He can go up and get the ball. And yesterday, he and John Brown did a nice job going up and getting the football, while Zay Jones had one snap yesterday. It's not very good for Zay Jones. We'll get into that a little later on as well. But the thing about this team, they're 4-1. They could very easily be 1-4, but they're not. They're 4-1. But the defense, I think, while they've been very, very good, and they have been, they kept. I mean, Jordan Phillips is responsible for taking 6 points off the board for the Tennessee Titans yesterday alone by pushing Mariota back. They still haven't found a way to take the ball away that often. I think that's the next step, and I think even some of the defensive players after the game yesterday admitted, we got to start taking the ball away. We got to start giving Josh Allen shorter fields to work with. That year that they made the playoffs and they broke the drought, it was because in those games against Atlanta and Denver and Oakland, Micah Hyde and the secondary picked the ball off, and guess what? They gave Tyrod Taylor short fields to work with, which means Hauschka came out and kicked a bunch of 50-yarders. But at the end of the day, those wins got them in the playoffs. So, I mean, I'm looking at this defense going, I'm waiting for the defense to take the next step. And I think they can do it. I think they can do it.
Absolutely.
So, we're going to take a little break. When we come back, we play this game every week. It's called First Things First. We're going to do a little word association where I'm going to throw out an idea that happened yesterday, and my friend Joe here is going to give me the first sentence that comes to mind, and we'll discuss all these topics, including what went down at 5 a.m. this morning, Monday morning, in Washington. That's coming up next. This is Overtime. I'm Dan Borrello. This is the Empire 8 Associate Commissioner Joe Venniro. We're both St. John Fisher grads, proud grads of 2002, and you're watching Overtime here on the Rock Sports Network, rocksportsnetwork.com.
When I sprained my left knee, they did so much to help me at
Lattimore Physical Therapy.
With 20 locations throughout Monroe and Livingston County, pain relief is never more than minutes away. Same-day appointments available. Most insurance accepted. Call 1-888-PT-ROCHS.
Lattimore Physical Therapy.
Hi, my name is Henry, and I want to welcome you to Batavia Downs Gaming. We want you to love it, not just like it here. We went to our customers and asked them what we can do better. You said you wanted a hotel, so we built one. More and better food, we did that too. A separate place to smoke and play, we even did that. Batavia Downs Gaming and Hotel is the right size with the right people in the right location. Batavia Downs Gaming. Come here to dine, stay, and play.
Hi, I'm Zach Ralph. We've been selling cars for more than 80 years. We're family-owned, family-run, 3 generations strong.
Come see the 2020 Hondas. There's something for every lifestyle.
Whatever you're looking for in your next car, you'll find it at Ralph Honda.
Only $7.99 for a Bill Gray's Great Play every Tuesday.
Thank you for joining us. This is Overtime. I'm Dan Borrello. My guest this week is Joe Venniro, who was the sports information director at RIT for how long?
15 years.
15 years, and now he's the associate commissioner of the Empire 8 Athletic Conference. We're going to get into what happened at the Courage Bowl just a little bit later on. Of course, this show is brought to you by Bill Gray's. Every Tuesday is Great Plate Tuesday at Bill Gray's. $7.99. Now, Tuesday's tomorrow. Unless you're watching this on a Tuesday, then it's today. 2 Bill Gray's cheeseburgers on top of home fries and mac salad loaded with your choice of toppings, including Bill Gray's famous meat hot sauce. All right, Great Plate Tuesday, every Tuesday. Gimme, 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 Bill Gray's. We're going to play First Things First. So I'm going to throw out a topic, and Joe's going to be his first reaction in one sentence. So here we go. Jay Gruden. This morning he was fired at 5 a.m. by Washington's owner, Dan Snyder. Your thought on this guy?
Gruden, the whole situation's a train wreck in Washington. Gruden struggled there, no doubt, but it's been a train wreck there for 20 years. Ever since Snyder's taken over as owner, it's been dysfunction upon dysfunction. Gruden, part of me wonders if he wanted to be fired by starting Colt McCoy this past week against the Patriots. It just made no sense. You got a rookie quarterback. You have another veteran in Case Keenum. I don't know if he was healthy or not, but you're starting Colt McCoy, who has no business starting a game in the NFL, and it showed yesterday. They lose 33-6.
Dwayne Haskins went to high school with Dan Snyder's son. That's why he was drafted. That's what led to the controversy. But even before that, as bad as the organization is, okay, they need an entire overhaul. Yeah. The league needs to take the team away from Dan Snyder. They can't do it. I hate to say this, but you hope that for Washington fans, a Donald Sterling type incident happens with this guy, because everybody thought he was going to come in and try to be like George Steinbrenner. Instead, he was like the old Jerry Jones, the Jerry Jones between, Jason Garrett and Jimmy Johnson, the guy who didn't know how to draft, didn't know how to do anything but meddle. He's been atrocious as an owner. Bruce Allen has no business being an NFL GM. His biggest contribution to football was convincing Jim Kelly to go to the USFL back in 1983. And then Jay Gruden, who's 14 games under 500 as a head coach, he's going to have to go become a coordinator before I think he can become an NFL head coach again.
Some guys are just cut out to be coordinators and not head coaches, and Jay Gruden seems like one of those
One
guys.
playoff appearance. What has he done? And by the way, he had Sean McVay on his staff, and they got Kirk Cousins to play. All of a sudden, Sean McVay wasn't even calling the plays in Washington. He goes to L.A., and all of a sudden, he's now the new template for NFL head coaches. We'll get to him in a second. So, I mean, it's like, Washington used to be a heritage NFL franchise. There's 5, I think. There used to be about 7. Dallas is a heritage NFL franchise. Green Bay, Pittsburgh,
Chicago.
No, I can't say Chicago. One Super Bowl win. I can't say Chicago because Chicago's so big. Yeah. But you can make the argument that they're the 8th team. There's Pittsburgh fans everywhere. There's Oakland fans everywhere. There's Dallas fans everywhere. The Giants. Okay. But then you could look at teams like Miami and Washington, who, by the way, I think are going to play next week, and they've just been historically bad the last 20 years. It's just been atrocious. So, I mean, Jay Gruden, maybe it's a blessing that he's out in Washington. Maybe he can go work with his brother. So the next idea is John Gruden. What are your thoughts on John Gruden this year, Joe?
Well, it seems like he's kind of stepped back and let his players do the talking this year. Last year, it seemed like it was all about me, and there was controversy from day one. And, I mean, they still aren't short of controversy after what went down with Antonio Brown and Vontaze Burfict. But that's a huge win yesterday for them. And a big win 2 weeks ago against a good Indianapolis team.
Antony who? That's my thought on Oakland right now. They've won 2 in a row. They beat Indianapolis, who beat Kansas City last night. All right, so talking about thanking the Colts twice, even though the Raiders had lost to a Minnesota Vikings team that still can't figure out its quarterback situation. Yeah, I know Kirk Cousins had a nice game yesterday. Great. He'll go back to being mediocre in less than a minute. You know that's going to happen. But right now, John Gruden's done a heck of a job with this team. Oh, by the way, he held Patrick Mahomes scoreless in the entire second half of that game in the second week of the season. So I think the Raiders may be up to something here, and they get a well-deserved week off after beating the Bears yesterday in London. The Sean McVay Bowl. Arizona beat Cincinnati. Your thoughts on that? First things first. Really?
Yeah.
Really? Because here's the thing. Here's what I thought. Here's why I call it the Sean McVay Bowl. Zach Taylor and Cliff Kingsbury, neither who I think have any business being NFL head coaches, were going head-to-head because they were the templates who were from the Sean McVay tree. First of all, I think you got to be in the NFL a while before you have a tree. Yeah. Even Bill Belichick doesn't have a tree of coaches. He's got a shrub. His coaches really haven't done anything without him. All right? I mean, Bill Walsh had a tree. Mike Holmgren kind of has a tree. Belichick, as great as he is, it's all Belichick here, Brady. But, like, with this game yesterday, you saw Kyler Murray, outplay Andy Dalton. I got to think Andy Dalton's pretty much toast as an NFL quarterback.
At this point, it seems like that may be the case. I mean, he got off to a pretty great start. I mean, week 1 against Seattle, I think he threw for over 400 yards, and they should have won that game. But, God, has he come back down to earth pretty quickly this year.
He had a nice second half against the Bills.
Yeah, since Cincinnati's that team, it seems like every year they're in the mix, especially the last 3-4 years. They're in the mix, and then come November, the inevitable A.J. Green injury comes, which has already come 3 months early this year, and now hopefully he's healthy for the second half of the year and maybe traded to a team in Western New York. You never know.
Meanwhile.
But, they're just – I mean, they're struggling to begin with, Cincinnati, and I just don't see that team improving. And that game on last Monday night against Pittsburgh was atrocious. I mean,
Meanwhile, Packers-Cowboys. Your thoughts on that? My first thought went to Dak. Maybe you should have taken that deal in the offseason after what happened yesterday. Story comes out in USA Today that Dak Prescott's great against mediocre teams or worse, but against good defense, he doesn't fare very well. And Aaron Rodgers didn't have to do a hell of a lot yesterday, and they throttled Dallas at home.
Yeah, I did not see that coming to the extent of a blowout that it was. I mean, the score looks a lot closer at the end of the day, but that game was 31-3 in the third quarter, and Dallas's defense had no answer for the Green Bay running game. I mean, Aaron Jones had 170-something yards and 4 touchdowns. Incredible day for him. Dak, one of those games where you're down big early, you throw for a ton of yards, but, you had a shot. He had a shot in the fourth quarter, and he throws that bad interception that kind of put the game away. Kind of surprising to see Dallas's defense lay an egg after how they've played earlier in the year. I mean, that Sunday night game against New Orleans was fantastic. A great defensive battle, and they very well could have won that game. And then to see, and Green Bay is Green Bay. I mean, that loss to Philadelphia, kind of a fluke in a sense that they outgained them a ton, but Philly had a couple big special teams plays that kept them in the game, and were very advantageous at the end of the game with that Rodgers interception. But Green Bay's back. I think they're really strong right now.
We'll get to Aaron Rodgers a little later on in Overtime Rules. Colts Chiefs yesterday, or last night, return of the MAC. The Colts, I hate when I see time of possessions in the 41 to 42-minute range and a ton of rushing yards. It reminds me of Super Bowl 25. You knew where I was going with this, but that's what Frank Reich did. He, who played in Super Bowl 25 and held the ball for Scott Norwood, of course, on that field goal that's famous, wide right. Yesterday, kept Patrick Mahomes off the field, and the Colts, surprisingly, after losing to the Raiders at home last week, beat the Chiefs last night. How was that?
That wasn't a fluke. That was, watching that game, the Colts were the better team on both sides of the ball for 60 minutes. I know Mahomes dinged his ankle a little bit, and you could see he was a little hindered in the second half.
Stepped on his foot in the end zone.
But whenever Kansas City needed a big play, they couldn't get it. Indy's defense did a heck of a job just mauling that front line for the offensive line for Kansas City, and the offense, the run game. Kansas City, people are talking about them going after Jalen Ramsey. I think they need a run stuffer or a linebacker first. I mean, you're not going to win if you don't have the ball and you can't stop the run, and that was a big part of last night.
Couple things about Kansas City that a lot of people need to understand, all right? This is kind of important. Pro Football Focus, it got a lot of flack for grading Patrick Mahomes as the sixth best quarterback in the NFL as of last week. And, what the heck, man? Because he didn't take care of the football very well, and he showed some tendencies to try to play hero ball, and he's gotten away with it. Last night, he didn't quite get away with it as often, and his defense let him down. And you got to wonder if Kansas City is a one-trick pony with Patrick Mahomes. And now he has this ankle injury, and you have to wonder, if are the Chiefs as good as we really thought they were. I mean, we mentioned a couple weeks ago, they didn't score in the second half against Oakland, and they had some problems and almost blew a game against Baltimore. He's been able to play hero ball. He's been more successful at the Josh Allen. I'm saying he's a talented guy. Yeah, he does remind a lot of people about Dan Marino. And that's great, and that's great, but it's not a slam dunk that Kansas City is this amazing team. Do I think they're the second best team in the AFC? Absolutely. I don't think this changes anything, but Frank Reich got to him last night. And if you're the Chiefs, you got to sit there with your offensive line and your defense and go, we got to do more. It can't just be the Patrick Mahomes show every night.
You watch next week or next time they play, they'll run for 200 yards and, play smash mouth. So, Andy Reid's a good regular season coach in making adjustments and doing things. When it comes to the postseason, things are different, but I think Kansas City's just fine. They need some defensive help, but offensively they're going to be just fine.
We're going to skip ahead. The heck with the Jets. We know they're bad. First things first, the baseball postseason. We're not going to get into tonight's games because this is kind of timely, but what are your thoughts on it so far?
It's unpredictable as always.
You can't predict baseball, Susan.
Yeah,
John Sterling likes to say.
Unless you're Houston with Verlander and Cole, or maybe the Dodgers with Buehler and Washington with Scherzer, and even Scherzer struggled, you need a bullpen in the postseason. And right now, that might bode well for the Yankees, who probably have one of the weaker starting staffs of any team there, but their bullpen's second to none. And it seems like managers are so willing to pull their starters early to avoid letting games get away from them that it bites them in the 7th, 8th, 9th innings. And that might play right into the Yankees' hands. A team like the Yankees.
Rocco Baldelli got a lot of flack for pulling Jose Berrios early. The thing, though, in the postseason is that the game moves much faster, as Aaron Boone learned last year. Also, the thing you got to understand, too, is that they don't want to see these guys go through the lineup a third time after two runs through the lineup. But if you don't have a bullpen, like Joe's saying, then your starter's got to go out there a third time through the lineup. Tough crap if you don't have that bullpen. And the Yankees, their bullpen could be suspect, too. I've watched them this year. But for the most part, they have maybe the best bullpen in the postseason, so Aaron Boone can get away with 2 runs through the lineup. But, I think that's an important thing when we're talking postseason baseball.
Yeah, and a lot of it's going to come down to momentum and, just wild swings in these games. You saw it today in Tampa. They got a big lead early, and actually it was really refreshing to see people in the stands at a Tampa game. I think it was Kiermaier hit a home run early in the game. And it looked like it was like the Lightning scored a goal. They had the horn going. The crowd was going nuts. It was really nice to see.
Enjoy it while it lasts. Yeah. Enjoy it while it lasts. Lowest payroll in baseball, proving it can be done. Of course, Rays winning today against the Astros as well. Let's go to sticking with baseball. First things first. Joe Girardi. My friend here is a New York Mets fan, a long-suffering Mets fan. He jumped on the bandwagon in '86 and didn't realize what he was in for the rest of his life. Your thoughts on the Mets and Joe Girardi? Is there truth to the rumors?
I sure hope so.
I love Girardi as a Yankee manager. Loved him. A lot of Yankee fans did it, and then last year with Boone, they were complaining.
It seems like a perfect match, but the way Mets ownership has been, they'll find a way to mess it up.
The Wilpons, yeah. Oh gosh, yeah, absolutely. You know, you mentioned something. You mentioned something. Joe Girardi was asked on not Baseball Tonight, but on the Baseball Network.
It was one of the games.
MLB
this weekend.
Network, excuse me. He was asked about the Mets.
Yeah, and it was I think AJ Przinsky was kind of ribbing him. They were talking about Pete Alonso, and he kind of asked him, well, where would Pete hit in your lineup next year? Kind of caught him by surprise, and he pleaded the fifth. But it's kind of the idea that maybe there is some smoke to this fire, that something's going to happen here with Girardi and the Mets. You know
me, I'm a diehard Yankee fan, and Yankee fans and Mets fans don't like each other's teams, hate each other's teams for that point. I think Joe Girardi would be a great fit in New York because I think we need a return of a real clubhouse skipper. I hate these remote control managers, and I'm sorry, Yankee fans, of which I am chief. Aaron Boone is a remote control manager. They manage by app. Whatever the GM wants, here you go. We're going to talk later. Do we even know what a manager does anymore in baseball?
I'll disagree with you a little bit on Boone. I thought that last year, but this year it seems like Boone, maybe in year two, has kind of taken a different personality. There's more of a feistiness with him. I mean, we saw it a couple times. I know in Toronto, when Gardner got run and you heard him with some choice comments on the mic. It was pretty refreshing to see. I mean, that is kind of manager speak, so to speak. But I think Boone's going to be just fine in New York, and it is amazing though when you have a manager that seems pretty competent. What a difference that 5 to 10 wins makes.
I just hate the idea of coloring by number. Brody Van Wagenen is going to have his work cut out for him if he hires Joe Girardi next year, but I think we need a return of the clubhouse skipper. That's just my opinion. I think that the information is great, but I don't think analytics can be the tool box. It needs to be a tool in the box. We're going to take a little break. When we come back, we're going to play a game called Who's on the Milk Carton? And we're just going to throw a couple guys that we haven't seen in a while, and why. We'll talk about that. And also, don't forget overtime rules coming up. I throw out a rule that I believe should be implemented in sports today, even though it won't. And my friend Joe will react to that, agree or disagree. That's coming up right here on Overtime, brought to you by Lattimore Physical Therapy and, of course, Bill Graves. And don't forget, the Ozone Show is coming up after this. North Carolina State and Syracuse going at it on ESPN Saturday at 8 o'clock. They'll get into that coming up in just a few minutes. This is Rock Sports Network, rocksportsnetwork.com.
Hi, I'm Steve Ralph. We've been selling cars for more than 80 years. Our best values are available right now at Ralph Honda.
Come see the 2020 Hondas. There's something for every lifestyle.
Whatever you're looking for in your next car, you'll find it at Ralph Honda.
Bill Gray's newest tap room at the Port of Rochester is now open.
Daddy had surgery and his pain was put to ease.
Lattimore Physical Therapy.
Daddy had surgery and his pain was put to ease.
Lattimore Physical Therapy.
Or do you want to go Stephon Diggs?
Joe, that's hysterical. Sorry, we'll tell you what. We'll fill you in on the joke in just a second. This is, of course, Overtime. I'm Dan Borrello. This is Empire 8 Associate Commissioner Joe Venniro. My, how you've grown. We were both pupils of one Norm Kiefer at St. John Fisher College, SIDU, and I went into broadcasting and had a very unsuccessful career. You had a very successful career in sports information, so congratulations.
Thanks.
You took the right path. So this is brought to you by Bob Johnson. Our goal at Bob Johnson is to give you the best deal and the best new or used vehicle. If you're not sure what you're looking for in a new truck, car, or SUV, stop by and talk with our expert sales team, and they'll help you figure out which model fits your needs and requirements best. Bob Johnson Chevrolet, Ridge Road in Greece. We're about to play Who's on the Milk Carton, and well, Joe, you had a funny little thing that you just said. I thought it was hysterical. So go ahead, let the audience know. Who's on the milk carton?
Atlanta Falcons defense. Where are you?
Wasn't Dan Quinn supposed to be the love baby of Bill Belichick and Pete Carroll? He coached under both staffs. Oh, this guy's the perfect blend of both coaches.
I mean, they had this problem last year, and they made a couple picks. The defense is going to be solved, and had a good start against Philadelphia in week 2. But oh my gosh, they gave up 53 to Houston yesterday, who kind of has been struggling. Matt Ryan's going to throw for 5,000 yards, but they're going to go 6-10, and because they can't stop anybody.
I'm going to go with Bryce Harper, Mike Trout, or any highly paid baseball superstar. Joe, you said that's a hack thing to say. I disagree. 10 of your top 10 paid baseball players, only 3 of them are in the postseason, and 1 didn't even play this year, Giancarlo Stanton. The other 2 are pitchers, Justin Verlander and Clayton Kershaw. Are we going to see the days now where, like, the highly paid superstars – I mean, it took them forever to sign Bryce Harper. It took them for the Phillies. It took forever for Manny Machado to sign with the Padres. Are the days of those big contracts over now with analytics and everything else creeping into baseball?
They should be, but they won't be because owners will continue to pay those contracts to try to win now. You can blame Harper to an extent, but he still had 30-something homers and 115 RBIs.
I'm not blaming him.
It's not Harper's fault that
he's 1 out of 9.
He is 1 out of 9. You're right.
It's like hockey. You got a superstar, but he's on the ice for like 20 minutes
a
game.
And you look at these teams that are so successful in the postseason. The way the baseball salary structure is set up, you need young superstars to balance out that payroll. You can't have $20 million guys and try to be successful. You need those young guys. The Yankees still have Aaron Judge under his rookie contract. He's making, $500, $600 grand?
Yeah.
The Mets have Pete Alonso at $500 grand. For years, the Angels had Trout at $500-600 grand. You need those young players, and especially young pitching. You cannot have enough young pitching. And these teams like the Angels, like the Phillies, they just don't have enough pitching. And the Angels, you take the Angels, for example, you have Albert Pujols, who's winding down that big contract. I mean, he should be Exhibit A, Miguel Cabrera, Exhibit B on. Don't give more than a 5-6 year contract to a guy in his 30s. They break down. I mean, A-Rod with the Yankees years ago. You can make a case maybe out of the last 20 years, there's maybe a half a dozen contracts, maybe CC Sabathia is one of them, Mike Piazza, where the contract actually, at the end of the day, Ken, you got your bang for your buck for the whole deal. It's just amazing how these teams, and Harper, he's a 13-year contract. He's going to be 38, 39 years old. By year 10, you're going to be regretting that deal.
You had Albert Pujols doing what he did or didn't do in Anaheim. St. Louis has won World Series without that huge albatross of a contract. Now you have Mike Trout, who is still the best player in baseball, bar none, but he's got nobody to play along with. Billy Epler, the GM, has not followed in the footsteps of Brian Cashman and built a farm system that could support this guy. It's not. You have like Joe said, you got to get these young kids who are on those 6-year contracts under the clock. You got it, like Tampa Bay's been able to do. You got to go out and find those free agents with your analytics team, like the Yankees. They had 30 guys. They had 30 guys on the injury list this year, and they're winning with Gio Urshela. Are you kidding me? DJ LeMahieu is your MVP candidate in the American League. You got to do more than just get young players. You got to find those like unplucked gems in free agency too, and affordable prices.
As much as Cashman sometimes drives you nuts because he won't make that big deal for a starting pitcher, what he's done finding these gems like a Luke Voigt, a LeMahieu, an Urshela, Aaron Hicks. I mean, for what he's given up for those guys.
Didi Gregorius.
Another perfect example. You look at like the AL playoff field right now. I know Oakland got knocked out. Tampa, Minnesota, all lower payrolls because, Oakland especially, they just reload. They just find these kind of hidden gems that just keep excelling for them. You look at that roster with the exception of maybe a Matt Chapman, Matt Olson, there's not a lot of big names, but they won 96, 97 games this year. Tampa, they made the heist of all heists last year, trading Chris Archer for who ended up being Austin Meadows and Tyler Glasnow, and they're 2 building blocks now. Pittsburgh's gone in the tank since.
Gary, how much time we have? I know I'm doing a little inside baseball. All right, we have 3 minutes. We're going to overtime rules. We do this every segment. Joe, you took a lot of time there. You're a guest.
I like baseball.
But we're a guest, so we like that. So, okay. Sorry, let's go to overtime rules. I'm going to throw a rule out. I try to reinvent sports every week on the show. Kind of like Bill Maher on Real Time. He has new rules. I have overtime rules. All right, overtime rule number 1 this week. We got to stop with this week-to-week reevaluation of players, particularly quarterbacks in the National Football League. Josh Allen did not take a step back last week. He had a bad game. You know what he is. Dak Prescott is not garbage anymore. You know who your garbage quarterbacks are. Kirk Cousins is a garbage quarterback. Cam Newton's a garbage quarterback, all right? Andy Dalton's a garbage quarterback. You know who those guys are. These young guys, we don't know. We got to stop with this week-to-week reevaluation of players. Quick, what are your thoughts?
I agree to an extent on that. I think that's what got Buffalo in trouble 5-6 years ago with E.J. Manuel is they didn't let the guy develop. And I know people, that's not true. They were 3-2 that year, or 4-1, and they sat him for Kyle Orton of all people. I could see if you were trading.
They were 2-2.
I could see if you were trading for a good quarterback, but going after Kyle Orton just made no sense, and E.J. Manuel's career went in the tank after that. With Kirk Cousins, a guy like Cousins, it's amazing how yesterday he was a stud against a mediocre Giants team, but against Chicago, against these upper echelon teams, he is nowhere to be found. And a guy like Cam Newton, unfortunately, I think injuries are starting to take a toll. And now you're seeing Kyle Allen, who hasn't lost yet as a starter for the Panthers. I mean, if you're Carolina, I know he means a lot to your franchise, but it's hard to keep him at his inflated salary when you got a young quarterback, kind of that next man up mentality.
Overtime rules. Can we have a distinction between Bills Mafia and Bills Nation? About 30,000 people convened on Nashville yesterday, and most of them were pretty well behaved, except one jackass, a Bills Mafia member, who decided to jump through a table after getting a running start off a concourse, leaping over a railing, trying to hit a table, but instead hit nothing but concrete to the point where people thought he was dead. And what happened? It got on Deadspin and Barstool. Hey guys, Bills Mafia, I know that Del Reed, this wasn't his idea to jump through the tables, and even Vince McMahon, who owns his own football league, won't even endorse the Bills Mafia doing this. But you said in that Barstool mockumentary, which is what it was, that you did this because the team sucks. Well, guess what? They're 4-1 now. So you can stop and put the tables away and stop trying to embarrass the rest of us on television. Sorry, I'm Bills Nation. I remember when they were good. I lived through it. Joe lived through it. Bills Mafia, clean up your act. Save Pinto Ron, who's a gem. But the rest of you, put the tables away. This isn't funny anymore. All right? What are your thoughts on Bills Mafia doing this?
You couldn't have said it any better, to be
I
honest.
thought the kid was dead. Stop.
It's become a running joke.
Overtime rules. You're a huge Sabres fan. It's awesome that they've gotten off to a great start. I don't want to hear any excitement until January. Can we wait till January before we get excited? Last year we got excited in November, and look what happened. So can we just just wait till January? Is that okay?
They're right now off to a good start, and you need a little something to get them going earlier in the year. It'd just be nice to see them excel. I just want to see playoff hockey in Western Europe.
I want to see it too, but just don't jinx it. Just shh.
But why January? Why January?
Because
St. Louis.
January will have an idea if they're really good and worth talking about.
St. Louis was the worst team in the league on January 3rd last year, and they won the Cup.
Okay, good. And look what happened. So, hey, let's wait and see what happens, okay? Maybe the Sabres can pull a St. Louis Blues this year. Wouldn't that be awesome? A parade going in. And by the way, the Pagula said a parade would happen in Rochester, too. So let's just wait till January. Don't push our luck. Overtime rules, Major League Baseball. Could you please just pick a network and put your games? I should have to go through the guide to find out where the Yankees are playing on which night. By the way, the NFL, they're on broadcast networks. You know when Major League Baseball is going to be on a broadcast network? The World Series. Your sport's losing relevance. Stop. Overtime rules. Aaron Rodgers, stop being a chick. Mike McCarthy got fired. You don't need to rub it in his face every time you win a football game that life is better now with Matt LaFleur than it was with the guy who helped you win a Super Bowl. He's a guy who also chose you over Brett Favre. Stop crying. You sound like a 46-year-old guy who likes to take bathroom selfies, okay? Another thing, overtime rules. If you're complaining about the officials, all right, also, note that the officials are making mistakes for the other team, too. They cost Tennessee Titans some calls yesterday. Game could have gone either way. Let's. It's not just picking on your team. Overtime rule, pass interference. We got to stop making this a challengeable call. They're not overturning it. It's not happening. You see last night Jason Garrett throwing down his red flag. He was angry, and I don't blame him.
And replay's got some issues,
big-time
issues.
And it's replay. You see everything. You see that it's an issue. They're not overturning it.
I don't understand why they don't do kind of what the NHL or Major League Baseball does and have a command center in New York or wherever where it takes it out of the referee's hands. It doesn't make sense. I mean, the delays you see, it's insane. It kills the momentum of a game, kills the flow.
And it kills the challenge and often a timeout. And finally, overtime rules. We need more Courage Bowls. Brockport and Fisher. Brockport beat Fisher 17-0 at Fisher, but it's more than just a game. We've had 15 of these. My hope is that all these local teams give a high school feel. U of R should play Fisher every year. Hobart and Fisher should play every year. All these local teams, Brockport and Hobart, I know they played this year. They should all play each other every year. And maybe we could have a weekend of Courage Bowls instead of just one at Fisher or Brockport every year. We could have Hobart and U of R play in a Courage Bowl too. We could have multiple Courage Bowls in the same weekend. Now, this isn't the school's faults. this is college football's fault. This is just the way the sport is. And I know I don't want to put you on the spot. You're the Empire Area Commissioner. But I think you agree that the Courage Bowl is more than just a game, and we could use more great games like this.
That was my first Courage Bowl I've had a pleasure being a part of, and it was nothing short of spectacular. Just to see what you do for such a great cause in Camp Good Days and Special Times, and just to see the kids and everything that was the way that St. John Fisher and Brockport served as ambassadors out in the community. It's just nothing short of awesome, and I can't wait for next year's Courage Bowl and the years beyond that. It's just a great situation.
He did it. Gary Mervis did it in honor of his daughter Teddy, who had cancer. And they've helped so many families through this. Now, can you imagine if we had a weekend of Courage Bowls where you had one at noon and then another one at 4 and maybe another one at 7? Wouldn't that be cool with all the local teams playing in that? Brockport, Hobart, Fisher, U of R, everybody playing each other. And given that high school, that would be my vision for the Courage Bowl. And it's very hard to do, and schedules are made, often years in advance. But I think that would be great to have one day of just Courage Bowls across the board. And maybe Rock Sports Network, of course, would be doing the Brockport game as well. That's going to do it. The Ozone is coming up next. Big game with the Orange. Dino Babers' crew taking on North Carolina State. Don't forget, of course, we have a lot of great sponsors here. Bill Gray's is a huge sponsor of this show. So is Bob Johnson Chevrolet, Lattimore Physical Therapy, and of course, Thurman Thomas's 34 Rush Sports Bar at Batavia Downs. We love the guys at Batavia Downs. Gary and I partied there the first game of the year. We had a great time. Gary kept it together. I got a little wild, though, when the Bills won that game. Thurman Thomas wanted to choke me for picking the Jets, and you know what? He was right. He was right, as always. So, for Joe Venniro, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. We should do this more often. You shouldn't talk as much, though. You killed a lot of my time. I was upset about that. I'm just joking.
For once.
Yeah.
For once.
I know, right? Yeah, of course, that is the irony of this whole thing. So, for Joe Venniro, for the Godfather, soon-to-be grandfather, Gary Sadak, the executive producer here at Rock Sports Network, I'm Dan Borrello. Thank you so much for joining me on Overtime. God willing, we'll be back with you next week. And remember, it's just a game. Enjoy the ride. We'll get back here, God willing, next Monday right here on Rock Sports Network. RockSportsNetwork.com.